are here in the studio with our panel, Leah Wright-Rigueur. I was actually surprised to see President Trump basically saying the quiet part out loud, that this review of the Smithsonian is not about even just something vague about reviewing history to make sure that it's fair. He wants to make it so that it talks less about slavery. What does that say to you?
Well, I think it's an effort. It's part of a larger effort to both sane-wash and whitewash American history, and essentially erase all of the parts and disappear all of the parts that make Americans, that make President Trump uncomfortable, that feel distasteful, that are a reflection of the actual real and horrific parts of our history. And I find it a little ironic. You know, earlier today, as I was listening to some of the commentary, my first thought was, wait a second. I wonder if the president has actually ever visited any of the Smithsonian museums. And then I remembered that in 2017, he actually took a tour of the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Let me just play, actually, what he said during that tour. Listen to this.
I had the privilege of visiting the National Museum of African American History and Culture right here in Washington, D.C. It's a new, beautiful Smithsonian museum that serves as a shining example of African Americans' incredible contributions to our culture, our society, and our history. It also tells of the great struggle for freedom and equality that prevailed against the sins of slavery and the injustice of discrimination. The work and love of the people who helped create such a masterpiece is a testament to the legacy of so many leaders it honors.
That was pretty nice for him to say. He must be hanging around new friends or something. But nah, the truth of the matter is, when you're in power and something makes you uncomfortable on that level, especially slavery, you do things like that. And what we're not all being honest about is that we haven't had a president yet who doesn't feel uncomfortable about slavery and discussing it and doing something about it in any way. There is work to be done, but none of them ever approach it because it makes them feel so uncomfortable. And everything or anything that they do is going to fall short, and they know it. To even muster up the courage to attack it would be almost like invoking another civil war, because the country has not gotten to the point where they're ready to reconcile and make this correct. They're still in denial and acting like nothing ever happened. And unfortunately, something did happen. And it needs to be dealt with appropriately. Donald Trump is not the end-all, be-all. Donald Trump is not the reason that we're in this situation we're in. He might be bringing more attention to it or pulling back some of the covers by his frankness and just being direct, and in some ways just downright ignorant in some of the things he says. But it's out there, and once he puts it out there, look how we deal with it. A lot of Democrats pretend that the Democrats are acting appropriately as far as slavery and black people and the current and past treatment of them. We have so many Democrats who vote for things that don't benefit us. We have so many Democrats who have no idea that we really don't feel satisfied. We don't feel complete. We don't feel even or even have the potential to become equal. A lot of them don't even know because they don't care. How they feel is what's important. And that's how this country has been run. I feel it's a little unfair to pile on Donald Trump because he's just doing what makes him comfortable, like so many other presidents have. We've had presidents that we thought, hoped, prayed would do things for us, would acknowledge us, would acknowledge our past, and they haven't. Even our first black president. So when you run into that, what do you do? What do you do? I say you stop supporting them. I say the support for people like that has to end. We can't support people just because they're a little less prejudiced than this guy or they appear to be or whatever it is. that we reason within ourselves to continue to support people who are just as bad to us as Trump. If Trump came into office and black people were being considered properly in the decades preceding his election, either time, he wouldn't be able to harm black people with the stroke of a pen. If we would be put in a place where we'd be comfortably safe from a president who can come in and in 4 years wreak such havoc. And I believe that for the most part, a lot of that is just exaggerated and embellished to make us more adversarial. So you got all the support you're going to get out the black community. But that ain't enough, because you can use the black people's story. You can use their passion and all that shit and get them out there time and time again to bring that bone back and then not get nothing for it. That's what we got to stop doing, is running this errand for the Democrats, where sure, what Trump is doing ain't right. Sure, we don't agree with that shit. But does it rise to the level where we're going to just forget all our wits and just start voting Democrats back in office and then get what? Wiped out by the illegal immigrants? More driver's license being handed out to illegal immigrants? Everything short of making them citizens. And nobody from the Democratic side has made sense of that. Everything that the Democrats do, in my opinion, leaves someone somewhere in jeopardy, and it's supposed to be the person they care about, the person they're protecting, and the person they're doing for. But then as soon as their term is up, whatever they did or didn't do is in jeopardy of being lost and gone by just the next administration, because they don't put shit in cement. They do a bunch of shit that can be, with the stroke of a pen, gone, instead of them, especially when they're in the majority. They act like it's going to just be like this forever. And now look at where we are. It's looking at us talking about the Smithsonian, and that ain't ours. Fuck that shit. I don't think we should be worried about it at all. Let them take all that shit out the fucking Smithsonian. And we need to take ourselves. We have a lot of people who are still alive today who are historical figures. Why would you want to take something that belonged to our ancestors, our civil rights leaders, our political leaders, our athletes, and put it in a place where a person like Donald Trump can have any kind of control over it? Why would you want to do that?
So was it that he didn't believe what he read from the teleprompter as he recorded that video, or what?
You know, I'm really struggling to understand in a lot of ways, particularly given that the tour that he took with director Lonnie Bunch was actually a reflection of really the mastery that and really the care and the patience that historians, that scholars, that curators put into the Museum of African American History and Culture. It is not just about the horrors of slavery, although it tells that very important story. It actually follows this really brilliant model where you move through the museum and it tells the story not just of enslaved Americans in America, but also of the resilience, of the triumph. And in doing so, it tells a story that is very much about democracy and about a quest for democracy and the way that Americans both built this country, but also the story and the narrative of like a truly American experience. And so for the president, I think, to just simply erase that and
He ain't erasing shit. And we need to quit giving Trump and his administration so much power, or so much power over our emotions, because that's all that shit is. We need to let that shit go. If he want to close down the Smithsonian or get all the black people shit out of it, or what we going to cry and whine? No, we want our stuff in the Smithsonian too. Fuck it. Get our shit, back a truck up and get all our shit out of there if he'll give it. This will be the president who would probably give you the shit. This would be a great opportunity for some black curator to come along and say, you know, I'm going to take care of that shit. I'm going to be the overseer of that. But nah, we want them to watch it for us. You know, when you're a little kid and you got money and you didn't want to lose it, because you knew you always lost money when you got it. So you give it to who? Your mom. You give it to an adult, somebody, who's responsible, who's going to, take care of that for you. And when you need it, they're going to give you your dollar back. We don't need that shit. We're not kids. It seems like that's how our life in the United States is going. We need the Democrats to do everything for us. We need them to hold our dollar so that when we get ready to use it, then we can go to them and they give it to us. It's ridiculous. And we try to knock Donald Trump for the most part just because he's way more out in the open with this racist shit. He is, for sure. But it doesn't relieve the Democrats of any guilt or any of their racist ways and the things that they have done. And I am just so tired of these panels getting together and nobody ever says, hey, we need to move differently. We just keep doing the same thing and looking up and hoping the Democrats change their path and change their ways, because if they change, then we change, because we do whatever they do. Fuck that. We need to get off the boat. We need to step on the side of the shore, and if they want us back on that boat better go some places we want to go. And quit ignoring us completely and having us to the point now where we accept being ignored. Yeah, we know the country's not ready for us to be treated right. Yeah, we know the country just doesn't like to see us do well economically. Yeah. We just have to accept this shit in order to be a Democrat? Well, that ain't cool. We need to do something that's just going to help ourselves. Let them run the country the way they have been. We have had no power, no control, and no direction over any of the shit that they do up there. Let them do it. But we need to concentrate on ourselves, work on ourselves, and we don't have to be running the country or being put in these high positions where we have no power or no pull. Really fight for yourself. Really get our shit together, fighting for ourselves and voting for whichever party is going to help us move up or over or somewhere, and not feel so locked in and obligated to the Democrats, because they don't feel that to us. And I know that these folks on this show are very intelligent, and I know that they have to know in their deep insides that we are not getting a good deal with these Democrats. I don't give a damn what Trump does to the Smithsonian. I really don't. But those things in the Smithsonian are wonderful, priceless, timeless items that need to be made available, but not to the point of where we gonna beg or kiss no ass or have to worry about what part of the Smithsonian or what in the Smithsonian can be in there and not. Whatever ain't in there is packed away. Let's just go get that stuff. Let's get all that shit. All of it. Trump will probably give us that shit, I'm telling you. And then a Democratic president will come in and take it back and be like, hey, you guys got to turn that back in. That belongs to the United States. I'm telling you, these Democrats are not our friends, man. They be doing us fucked up. And then they get on their little shows and they get a couple of black Democrats in there and just sit back, get you a bowl of popcorn and watch how this shit go.
Push that away. Tells it, particularly after praising it a few years ago, tells us that this is part of a much larger agenda. This is part of a much larger agenda to erase things that really, I think the country is just refuses to deal with and is really uncomfortable with.
He said as much by ending this post with, this country cannot be woke because woke is broke. He says we have to.
That's just fucked up. Woke is broke. Everybody has different interpretations on what woke means, though. I remember when black people used the word all the time, and it was cool to be woke. And they have shamed us into not using it or not wanting to be associated with that word. I don't see anything wrong with being woke in any way. When I'm doing something and not understanding why I'm doing it, I don't feel like I'm woke. I don't feel educated. I don't feel knowledgeable and have an understanding of what I'm doing. I want to be woke in every way, if possible, whenever I'm involved in something, especially things dealing with my race. And it's no shame in being woke. And anybody who try to shame you or about being woke or whatever, them being woke, people like woke because it woke equal black and now broke, I guess. And it is what it is. We can turn that around. That's all we got to do is own it. Shit, we got people wanting to be called the N-word. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we can market anything. Shit, you can market the N-word. You can market some shit, but we just gotta pull away from the Democrats and the Democratic leaning shows who are basically having a very intelligent and a very necessary debate, but it's leaning Democrat. When they speak of these Democratic leaders, they forget that they are as guilty of this shit as Trump is. Trump is not the first president who has done fucked up shit and that affected us or was in our direction. And because it's current, people tend to scream a little louder. But the things that were done to us decades ago are still manifesting. And the Democrats have been in power enough to have reversed some of that shit, to have looked at it and said, oh, hell no, that's fucked up. That ain't right. They pretend to be. I mean, why even morph affirmative action into DEI? And why even change it? There's nothing wrong with affirmative action. There's nothing wrong with giving black people an opportunity to get hired on jobs affirmatively because of all the monkeying around that's going on with not hiring them because of, racial reasons, hiring your friends, hiring your kind, hiring your whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But we tend to accept their ways and it's making us not fight for ourselves. It's making us look at their view of us and adopt that as our own. And we know better. We have to know better. It absolutely makes no sense because we're doing no different with the Democrats than Trump is trying to let everybody know. I don't feel comfortable with that Smithsonian. Somebody came to him and was like, oh my God, have you been? He probably was like, yeah, I know. That shit ain't right. And he agreed with them. And we need to be not in agreement with the Democrats and let them know, no. You're not going to do us like this. You guys have to understand the real and not make us look like you're the opposite of Trump because you're not. Because you guys have done things and will do things that benefit you or that work against us. Like the way we police in our cities. It's really a trip. He said, I am for the first time seeing people act the way I thought people should act when police get a little overbearing, a little too hands-on. When I saw police in the communities and the ICE folks get trying to round up the illegal immigrants, and I see resistance. I see no, like and that's what I would have expected for any group. And I've lived that my whole life, and I've never seen that kind of support for any group when the police are there. When it's the police, it's kind of almost like, well, you know what? There's the police, and, you got to follow the laws. And, and at this point, I'm starting to see that all that is just bullshit. They can do whatever they want to do.
We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including our museums. Why is he equating talking about slavery with woke?
Well, look, let me just start this conversation by saying that my personal view is slavery was a reprehensible institution. I agree with your words that it was our original sin. We also fought a war to eradicate it and to get over it as a country. And that was a necessary thing that happened, and a lot of people died, and we did eradicate it, and that's a good thing. I think what he's asking is, in our museums, what defines us? Are we going to be defined by the worst moment or the worst institution or the worst mistake we ever made? Or are we going to be defined by what we've done moving forward to get over it and to become the greatest nation on the earth? My belief is that he wants to look at these museums, not because he wants to do away with the idea that slavery occurred, but that he wants to ask a very simple question. Are we going to present ourselves as being exceptional or not? And I think he believes
being exceptional has nothing to do with emptying out a library or a school curriculum or a Smithsonian museum. It's kind of weird that obviously this guy can see Trump's side of it. And that's just because it's a completely different perspective when you talk about this with white people generally, and as opposed to black people. Most white people don't see that side of it because they're just kind of in their own way trying to defend and deflect and make themselves feel better. It really is about the way people feel. And it can turn real quick from them not feeling too good about slavery and everything that went on with it and all of that. But they don't feel so bad that they want to see you doing good. They don't feel so bad that they want to see you have the same opportunities, the same homes, the same communities, the same cars, the same everything that they got. They don't feel so bad that they want that for you.
There is an effort by some to continue to try to define us from our worst moment instead of try to focus and define us based on our best moments, which started when we eradicated slavery and began to move forward as the light of the world. And so that's what I think.
Museums, that's what makes us an exceptional nation, is because they tell the history and the story of our country, and therefore, you know, these horrible, horrific moments in our history. The original sin, as Abby talked about, when it comes to slavery, has, you know, we of course did eradicate it, but look where we've come today. And I think those museums, like to your point, make America exceptional, and in museums all around the world that document atrocities.
A museum doesn't make you exceptional. Documenting your history and having historical artifacts and items in a place where people can go and view them and see them and have a glimpse of history or an historic item, that doesn't make you exceptional. It's something that you would think any civilized nation would have and have accessible to their population. And when you see them try to steer it a particular way, it is just a testament to that has never stopped. We can blame it on Trump as much as we want, but since slavery ended physically, up to now, they have control of the way the current flows. And we just have to go with the flow. And that should let you know that we are in a bad place, and they have made us believe that we're in a better place than we really are. And some people say, hey, you know what? You know, we can curse at ourselves in our homes. We can drink. We can, you know, all the things that you can do is because those are the things that it's okay for you to do, in their opinion. Because if you start doing things that elevate your race, not just yourself, there's a lot of rich black people out there individually. But when you see a black person come up with a formula, come up with a plan, and start spreading that plan around to where other people who of his race are just elevating like it's just a winning formula, how well do you think and how long do you think that'll be allowed to go on? Because here we are in 2025 and we don't have the ability to do that. And they'll stamp it out, and they have, and they will again until we do differently. We continue to get up off the ground, dust ourselves off, only to hand the reins back over to the oppressor. And it's a mentality thing to a certain degree, to a large degree. And we can break it. We can break that cycle and do different, do better, and not allow our oppressor to put their opinion of us in our head and have us live by it. That's the most harmful thing that can happen, because we are put under a ceiling that we didn't build, that we didn't project. That ceiling was put there by someone else. We want that ceiling to be where we want it to be. And we want to reach and shoot for it and have the real opportunity to get there, and not, you know, some artificial, you know, all men are created equal shit. But then we don't have the same opportunities that some other men do. It's hard to tell people that when you're not giving them the true opportunity that everybody else has. That's a fact. But I can see how this guy can identify with Trump. I totally do, because he's a white male And he's like, we don't lynch no more. You know, you're thinking of how far we've come. But watching your family die slowly because you can't afford to take care of them, because you're being discriminated against, because you're not being given the job that you might deserve, or maybe you don't have the education to get the job because of the circumstances and the way the educational system is in this country, and all kind of other reasons. But that is a painful way to see your family go. It's just day by day, you just can't. That's horrible. And any group of people who would subject another group of people to that, to not identify the fact that Black people cannot be in the position they are in this country unless someone is applying pressure to make it possible, and to own up and admit it and stop.
Whether it be, from Nazi Germany to eradicating slavery here in the United States, you have to learn the lessons of the past, and to deny it is to defend it.
I don't think he's denying it, and Bachi may want to comment on this as well. But I think what he wants to ask is a simple question: as we present our history, are we spending most of our time focused on something terrible? Are we going to spend more time as we enter our 250th anniversary focused on what this country has done to improve the lives of every single person who lives here? We are the light of the world for a reason, because we're an improving commodity.
The question I ask when I hear you say that is, why? I mean, the idea that slavery happened, it's hard to understand what we've overcome if you don't even talk about what it was. I think that kind of waters down the whole.
I don't think anybody is proposing that we ignore that it happened.
I don't think that's accurate. I think that the problem is that there are people, and Scott used the term a couple of times, and I don't think it was meant with any type of ill intent, but he said, we got over it. And I think that's the problem. I think that there are a lot of people in this country who believe that for some reason we got over it. I mean, the fact is that American chattel slavery is vastly different than what Jillian Michaels and others talk about when they talk about slavery around the world. I mean, the chattel slavery system that we had was extremely transactional. It was actually codified in law, and it was based upon the color and race, as you so eloquently pointed out in your opening. And so not only when you think about that portion of where we are, 26 of our first 30 Supreme Court justices owned slaves. The people who are on our money every single day own slaves.
Well, it's impossible for us to be in a country that we were slaves in, and the same government, the same land, we're in the same area, is under their jurisdiction. And do you honestly think that they're going to release you as slaves and allow you to pass them? Or you think they're going to release your slaves and let you threaten their livelihoods in any? Do you realize how evenly the racism is applied across the United States? It's applied so evenly. It's not like you can go to some part of the United States and Black people are just running shit, just running the town, and that's what we need, is the true opportunity to say, hey, this area here is good for Blacks or better for Blacks, and unlimitedly better. Not where you can go there and it's still a ceiling over your head placed there by our Democrats in most cases and the Republicans, but our government, our business owners, the white people that we share this country with. Just a thing that doesn't cost them a dime, and they don't want to do it. Just racism in every way. You can't even expect a fair shake so you get to the point of where you don't. And then I think that's where we are, where we accept the bad and then just ain't no big old deal. We get up off the ground, dust ourselves off, and roll with it. And they keep doing it because of the way we're responding. Obviously, our response is not appropriate, or I believe we could put the brakes on this shit.
United States presidents, members of the United States Congress owned slaves. Lehman Brothers, we're not far from Wall Street, owned slaves. Brooks Brothers suits that we wear own slaves. So not only are we talking about the epicenter and the foundation of where our country was built, we have to acknowledge that. But even more importantly, and this is where I believe that Scott and I can find agreement on this issue, Breon and Megan Walker are two of my best friends in the world. Their dad was the first African-American SGA president at the University of South Carolina, right? He was an exec at IBM, but he was one of the first, right? We're still talking about first that emerged and stood on those shoulders. I tell the story often about my mom and dad. My mom helped desegregate high schools. In Hamilton High School in Memphis, Tennessee, my dad shot in the Orangeburg Massacre. This is a part of my story. This isn't some faint, distant history. Yeah. And so the reason I bring that up is because I think that American exceptionalism talks about the fact that Black folk help, enslaved folk help build this country for what it is. Mm-hmm. They built Washington, D.C., but all of us are around this table. Abby, myself, all of us, not just Abby and myself, all of us are around this table because of the sacrifices and the blood and the sweat and the tears these people poured in.
I also come back to why the focus so much on slavery when it comes to rewriting history. There's a lot of history that it's in these museums, but he's focused on one thing, and that is that there's too much slavery being mentioned in the United States of America. That's very odd, Batia, honestly.
It is very weird and telling also. But the other part about that is it is a direct aim at Black people by Donald Trump. And it's being framed that way and accentuated a little bit too much for my liking, only because I see what the Democrats are doing. I get it. Everybody else gets it too. It's a swipe at us for sure, without a doubt. But the Democrats are, I don't know how you can get Black people to be any more loyal than they already are. You don't have to do anything else except have shows like this and speak about these issues in different terms. Not just Trump's a racist and he don't like Black, but why is he doing these terrible things? And why is he, that we're being miseducated in our schools. That's the show we probably need to be having. Most Black people in this country ain't ever been to the Smithsonian. We know about it, but most people don't go to, Black people don't go to museums. I don't know who goes to them, but a lot of my friends don't, and it would probably be nice if we did, but you can fill the museum with all the artifacts and all the history, and all the museums around the world got all this Black art in them that they will not part with. You go to France, go to England, you see these Black artifacts that were taken out of Africa and put in their museum. They like our culture, they like our art, they like us, but they have to have the upper hand. They have to have control, or the relationship isn't to their liking. And we understand this because we are the ancestors of their former slaves. So we know just by living alongside of them what we can do and what we can't do, and how to gain favor or how to become adversarial with them. And I just believe that because we have all this figured out, and we have a working knowledge, after we all brag about this voting rights bill in 1964, we have the working knowledge of how that benefited us and where we are today, as opposed to if that didn't pass, where we'd be. A lot of people say, well, we get to vote and put somebody in office who does nothing for us. We get to vote and put somebody in office who doesn't think the rest of the country feels comfortable helping us. But we feel comfortable pooling our vote together and helping that person across the finish line, only did not help us. Again and again and again. We have a history, we have decades of this to draw on when we figure what we need to do going forward. Not that. That's what we need to know. Not that. We're going to do something else. And then we'll be moving in the right direction. Because these conversations are meant as propaganda to get us to be more supportive to a party that we are already about as goddamn supportive as you can be. And we need to tone it down, not up.
So I want to start by saying I actually agree with everything that's been said, and I loved your opening. And so I offer these comments very humbly because it's an honor to be included in this conversation, which is very solemn, and I think we all understand that, and we are all looking for the common ground here. And so what I'm about to say, I don't mean in any way to negate that tone, But starting around 2011, 2012, sociologists started to notice a shift in white liberal opinion polling to where white progressives became more extreme in their views on race than Black and Hispanic Americans. And they called this, the sociologists did, called it the Great Awakening. And when they postulated, where did this come from? Why did white progressives suddenly start obsessing over race in a way that was actually far to the left of where Hispanic and Black Americans were on this issue? They found that the media had shifted radically how it talked about these issues. So for example, in 2010,
Nobody is ever going to convince me that white liberals are further left than on race than Black people or Hispanics. But Hispanics have a different life in this country. They have communities that are like 80% Hispanic or better, 90% Hispanic or better. Communities all over this country where they own the stores. They have the political local offices. It's a whole different life than what we don't have any communities like that. So it's a different world. And they keep trying to lump us in there with the Hispanics so that we can like say Black and brown a whole lot. But their lives are quite different than ours. And we should remember that and going forward and not try to talk that talk, but they're really doing things that we're not doing. And there's a reason for all of that. And we need to get to the nuts and bolts and find out what in the hell is going on here. You know what I'm saying? What in the hell is going on here that is causing us to stumble and causing us to run in place, and we hearing all this beautiful language coming out of our colleagues on the left, and nothing to show for it. We have absolutely got to have something coming from that political party that would make us stick to them, because we're sticking to them and we have nothing to show. Why are we so close to them? Why are we so loyal?
The words white supremacy were mentioned 75 times in the Washington Post and the New York Times.
But the media is different from museums.
In 2020, the words white supremacy were mentioned 700 times in the Washington Post and the New York Times and 2,400 times in NPR. The word racism 4,000 times in 2020. The words white and racial privilege from 2013 to 2019 grew by 1,500% in the New York Times and the Washington Post. And the
Not talking about it does not make it go away. And that's sometimes they believe if you hear a lot of talk about it and if it's out in the front, it's worse. Believe me, it's people behind the scenes who are catching hell. So it ain't all about how many times somebody said the N-word or how many times somebody said you was white privileged. It's not about that. Your actions are much more loud than words. And that's the problem with this country. Everybody becomes such wordsmiths that they feel like they can explain everything away and justify it with the language instead of just doing the work, just being a particular way instead of talking about how you feel on the inside. Just project that to the outside. Let us see it.
word slavery itself exponentially skyrocketed as a percentage of words. I'm offering this only to suggest.
I understand. I'm just wondering what do you think is the problem with talking about slavery, white supremacy, racism, etc.?
So the point I'm trying to make here is that liberals will say, well, this is a reflection of reality, but of course it isn't. This is a reflection of a newfound obsession that was driven by the media.
Well,
you see, she's trying to say that basically there's no racism. It's just being driven by the media, because people in real life, we don't have that problem. I tell you what. If these people could understand that we not cool, we ain't cool like this. But if they could quit believing that, then they could have a better understanding of what's going on. It's very difficult to look at somebody and say, you know, we should be more fair. We should do more when you feel or have tricked yourself into believing you've done all you can do. But really, you have to feel that way in order to be able to look those people in the face and ask for their vote, knowing you have no plan for them. That it take a special kind of a fucking politician to do that. And a special kind of voter. No, it is not being duplicated anywhere else in this country. There is not a relationship in this country between any constituency that is parallel or even close to the relationship that black folks have with Democrats. It's not none. Nobody else would deal with that shit because they do politics different than we do. And we need to start to, the Democrats are not our saviors. Anything that we think the Democrats can do for us or get for us, we can do it for ourselves. We have the ability and the power on all levels to do it better for ourselves and know that it's not going to be put on the back burner or explained away, or once they get into office, then all of a sudden it ain't that important. But it was important enough to talk about on the campaign stomp.
And that doesn't reflect either the moral evil
what
of these
but I
things
do wanna,
or the historical accuracy.
I do want to dive into what you mean by that, because you say that you don't think it's a reflection of reality. Based on what?
Well,
based on the idea that those things don't exist, that
based
white
on the
supremacy
idea
doesn't
that-
exist, racism doesn't exist, that we shouldn't be talking about it
Based on
anymore?
the idea, obviously all these things I think are evil, but there's not more slavery now to the tune
Yeah,
of
but I think part of the
that's not
problem,
1,500% than there
problem,
was
Batya, is that in the
respectfully,
19-
It really does make white people feel uncomfortable. I mean, to really think that you had a person enslaved that you could make sleep on the floor at the foot of your bed in case you wanted water in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? Or you could send them out in the middle of the forest to get something for you that you might have left, or off a tree, or fucking anything. It's that you had that kind of control over another human being. And the sick part is, after accepting and knowing and realizing that to be fact, to not completely be okay with letting go. Even if you ain't okay with feeling that you have to do anything as far as to replenish or repair these people, just to let go though. You're not willing to do anything for these people, but you're not willing to let go. You're not willing to back away and leave them alone. That's the part that bothers me the most.
That's
Hold on a
not the-
second, Bakari. Part of the problem is that back, not that long ago, in the 50s, the 60s, even beyond that, when there was actual Jim Crow happening in this country, people were actually treating black people as second-class citizens.
We act like all that is so gone, and it really isn't. It really isn't. There's no way that black people in this country could all be grouped together in this place where we don't own a lot of businesses, where we're in the bottom and home, when we're, you know what I'm saying? Just keep thinking about wealth, keep thinking about economics, keep thinking about opportunities, and then you know that she's working with somebody else when she's trying to convince us that these are things of the past. As long as you're at the bottom, it is not a thing of the past. It's a thing of the present. It's something that needs to be dealt with and talked about so that other people won't pretend that it's not happening. Or won't pretend that they don't know what you mean. Like, what? Don't you guys think you had a black president?
We weren't talking about those things at all.
But in
those words were
2013
virtually never mentioned.
Abby, you don't
so is
think
that
2013
better? Was it better
you're missing-
then?
Abby,
respectfully,
or was
you're
it
missing-
worse?
You don't
then?
think
You're
that
missing the-
2013 is the same as the 1960s,
But you're missing,
right?
respectfully, and I've had this debate
Do
many
you
times.
really think that there's as big a difference
But
between
but
the
you're-
1960s
but we're missing-
and
I don't.
2013?
That's
the
not my point.
point.
My
Okay.
point is that the use of the language in present day, or the lack of the use of the language back when racism was apparent every single day in the streets of America.
And it still is. That's the problem. Apparently she ain't in the streets of America. She need to go outside because it is apparent in so many ways. You can go places and just be having a normal regular day and stand in a particular spot waiting for service or to pay or whatever. And the person working behind the counter might just walk back and forth a few times. And then as soon as another person walk up, they look right at them and say, "May I help you, ma'am?" And you're like, damn, you didn't see me. That is in your face racism. That's in your face. Get the fuck out of here. You saw my ass. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I don't like to put too much on the past when we're swimming in it. We're swimming in it. People say, no, die tomorrow and see how much you leave your family. Let somebody in your family die tomorrow. See how the burial goes. These are things that we should be above and beyond and not still be dealing with.
Doesn't reflect really anything except perhaps a better awareness of the reality that we live in as a country.
That's not the
think
point.
the country was more racist in 2015?
That's not the point.
I didn't say anything about whether the country was more racist
point
now.
Is we're missing the forest for the trees. Because what you have to realize is that the remnants of slavery that emerged through black codes, which, were enforced by what is modern day police, what you're talking about in Jim Crow, what you're talking about in the civil rights movement, those fights that weren't even 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. When you talk about George Elmore and everything he gave up so that African Americans could vote in the primary system, when you talk about Harry and Eliza Briggs, who actually were the foundation for Brown versus the Board of Education, when you're talking about Sarah Mae Fleming, who sat down on a bus before Rosa Parks, you're talking about the foundation of where we are today, and you see those remnants of
the foundation of where we are today. It just lets us know some of that shit just don't work. It was a gallant effort. It was a nice attempt. It was a great idea, but some shit don't work. And you keep talking about the foundation. He got all these historical statistics rolled up in his head, but the bottom line is we need to get away from the techniques used during the civil rights movement. We need to concentrate on ourselves. We know that having a leader out in front doesn't work well for us. Everybody need to be responsible for the community on the same level. I'm learning that as we speak from the illegal immigrants. I don't see no illegal immigrant standing up and taking the lead like Cesar Chavez for the farm workers and no shit like that, or Martin Luther King. I don't see that. I see city elected leaders, mayors, police chiefs, Congress folk standing up for those people. People who are standing up in such numbers, in such high places that an assassination won't stop this movement. You can't kill one person. And that's the scary part, is that this movement is rolling in a direction and in a way and at a speed that Trump and them can brag about all the people they're deporting, but there are so many people who are here and who the United States sanctuary cities are willing to fight for, willing to go to battle for. And until someone like myself can see that kind of effort being made for us, because I don't ever think I can honestly say that kind of effort has been made for us. And some people say, well, what about the Civil War? We had a war for you guys. Yeah, because you fought to keep us in slavery. Fought a war, a fucking war. That's not something that could have been settled in Congress. A war, bloodshed. That's how bad the slaves had to be retained. And then afterward, even the side that won had to give in to the fact that, yeah, they're not going to be treated like us. They're not going to be given the same opportunities as us. They're going to be different than us, no matter what we put in this Constitution and no matter what laws are on the books. The treatment of those people and their position in this country will not be the same as white people's. And they knew it, and they said it, and they're showing us better than they could ever tell us. So we got to quit acting like slavery's slavery, that discrimination and oppression is on the back burner and we have remnants. Now we're in the midst of it. It's not remnants.
Justice, even as we sit here today. You have a quarter of shame in South Carolina. Scott just was in South Carolina along the I-95 corridor where black and brown kids go to school. Their heating and air don't work. You have hospitals that are shut down. You have redlining that affect black people today. You have USDAs, right? The Farm Subsidy Program, which wasn't allocating funds to black people. So yes, although you might want to say, and one of the most amazing things about Barack Obama was that we believed we were in this post-racial society.
No, fuck that. The most amazing thing about Obama is that we still refer to him as the first black president, and he got in office and didn't do shit for us. He had other ideas. And I don't think he would have been that, or gotten over that well had he been more candid on the trail and told us when he was campaigning that he wasn't going to do anything for black people. It was kind of like we just kind of insinuated that we got to cut that shit out, believing in shit that nobody spoke on. Because we can't say he said it because he didn't. But oh no, I'm sorry. I just when he's just speaking about Obama like he was a dream. That was more symbolism. That was something that if he had poured his legacy into something that was going to move black people forward, that was going to give them a leg up, a lift up, something that no other president would be willing to sacrifice or do. And he wasn't either. He said it. The United States isn't ready for that, for reparations. And if they're not ready in 2025, he's basically saying they never will be. And this wasn't 2025. This was he back in 2008, 2010 when he said that. But if they're not ready, then when are they going to be ready? When is your average white person going to be okay knowing that black people can really reach the full potential that anybody else in this country could and maintain it without being gone after or set up or pulled over in his nice car or his motorhome or out in the lake on his boat? I mean, not being able to truly relax and exhale and enjoy his life like everybody else. Why can't the other occupants of this country be comfortable and happy for us to see that we're taking care of ourselves and that we're not over here stealing and robbing and selling drugs, and that we are capable of being citizens in this country just like everybody else if we're given the same tools that everybody else is given?
We are not. And so my point to you is that every ounce of change that we've ever had in this country has been because black blood flowed through the streets. You don't have the 64-65 Voting Rights Act without the Edmund Pettus Bridge. You don't have the Voting Rights Act. You don't have Fair Housing Act without King being assassinated. We don't even take the Confederate flag down without 9 people being killed in a church, right? We don't talk about criminal justice reform without a black man being killed in the streets. And so when we are articulating our views to you about the remnants thereof,
them don't sound like no fucking remnants. He's talking about a lot of blood in the streets because, in his opinion, that's progress when black people die. It seems like black people dying, but where's the step forward? Where's the step forward? Taking down a fucking Confederate flag? Honestly, when people still oppose that, and some of them fucking flags might go back up during Trump's tenure. It could happen if they ain't going up already. But some areas are okay with that. They want that shit. They want that flag on the side of their cars and flying around and whatever shit. God bless them. Whatever we want to do, we should be able to do it too, as long as we're not even hurting nobody else. It was a war that happened. Some people still, apparently, if they could, would own a few slaves. What you gonna do? But let's just all focus on ourselves. White people, black people, and be as respectful to when you encounter other races as possible, and everything is going to flow nicely. You can't treat people different because they're not you. We can't even, nobody can. We have to all get along here, but we also have to face facts that it's too much going on behind the scenes that affect us. And then when we come out front and want to talk about progress and pledges, people are saying, "Oh no, we don't have time to do that. You guys are crazy. That'll be like turning off my other folks. I need your vote, but I need you to shut up right now. We won already." And we've been doing that.
I understand your point that we are not shackled or in bondage like we were in slavery. However, we have never deconstructed the remnants which still affect us today.
Well, I also want to just add, Batia, but Batia, just as a factual matter. I mean, you're talking about a time period in which there was the first black president elected in the country. There was the Mother Emanuel massacre that happened in during his presidency, which was, last I checked, about racism and white supremacy. So there have been moments when we have actually correctly in this country grappled with those very things because they've been put on the agenda by our fellow Americans. So I don't understand the desire to try to avoid that when it's not as if it's gone. I mean, people are literally still killing people in this country because of the color of their skin, and suddenly we should just move past it?
I think we've had more than just moments where we have had massive leaps forward in the way we treat each other in this country. I mean, I agree with Batya. Where we sit today is vastly different than where we sat in the 1960s or the 1920s or the 1860s.
I don't think anybody's disputing that.
And it's not even close.
I don't know, but I don't think anybody's just.
From a white person's standpoint, he says it's not even close, that things have gotten so much better. But how can it have gotten so much better and we haven't grown economically? We don't own enough shit in this country. We don't have a big enough stake in this country. We don't own the land and the businesses that we should, or even the homes. And he's okay with that, is what he's saying. I'm good. They're good. We're good. No, we're not. And without him turning to the black gentleman sitting next to him and just saying, you know, what do you think? You know, how do you feel about that? And then listen to him and then incorporate it in what he was about to say and be like, I hadn't considered that, or, you know, or don't speak on it, because it's such of a place of privilege to be where he's speaking from. He's basically saying, I think things are good. So, you know, what are you talking about? You know, and like anybody who's saying contrary to that is exaggerating.
Disputing that. I think it's just a question of, do we need to just stop talking about it because we're not in Jim Crow anymore?
I don't think anyone's proposing that, but what I do think he is proposing, and I think this is worth discussing, is that as we go into our 250th anniversary, how are we presenting ourselves to the world? Are we presenting ourselves as a country that is obsessed with our worst moment, or are we presenting ourselves as a country that managed to overcome our worst moment and have been improving ever since?
Not about.
See, ending slavery doesn't overcome that moment that he calls our worst. And to some people, slavery is the worst thing that this country ever did. Dropping a bomb on another country, that was pretty bad, you know, in itself. They called slavery the original sin. I think the original sin was to come here and take land away from whoever was on it. You know, I mean, if you want to incorporate yourself into the country and you find areas that are not populated or under anybody's jurisdiction, yeah, I could see maybe squeezing in that way. But to murder people in order to get their land, yeah, that's a problem. Shit. And that is the original sin. When you land and the first fucking thing you do, other than work with the people who are there, meet them or greet them and all that, open up a bottle. If you don't do that, yeah, you tripping. That's the original sin. The original sin is to come here and take things that don't belong to you and to distort the historical content of what you've done when you arrive. Not only did you do it, you're hiding certain things about your deeds, about the things that you've done. And you expect us to be okay with that and just play like, oh, yeah, it was the original sin. And then it ended in 1865, and we've just been living in peace and harmony ever since. That's what they want to pretend like. Once slavery ended, let's not talk about that now. No, that's where coming out of slavery and what we had to go through up to this date, up to the point where they ain't got it right yet. They ain't figured out how to leave us alone and how to give us an opportunity to thrive. And the reason is because they refuse to be hands off. They cannot be. We have too much potential and too many reasons for them to fuck with us. Basically, we got professional athletes. We got doctors and lawyers and brilliant minds who need to be in those industries working alongside white people, so in some cases they can take credit for some other people's work. It happens. That must be so offensive when a white person thinks, wait a minute, we got good minds, we got bright minds, we don't have to steal ideas and things from black people. And the truth is that's a fact. And it has nothing to do with intelligence, it has to do with your spirit and what kind of a person you are. If you're stealing from somebody when you have the same capabilities and even more resources, and you steal ideas, steal thoughts, and plant your beliefs and ideas and goals in that person, and it works. What is the odds of that happening? No party, Republicans or Democrats, has that kind of influence over a segment of their voting bloc like the Democrats do with blacks. That shit ain't right. I don't like it.
Obsessed with our worst moment. I mean, again, I think it's an important part. Last year, 17 million people visited the Museum for African American History and Culture. And I think that's an important number, because part of what they saw was that this was a story about African American resilience. This is a story about community. It is a story about democracy and triumph. But it is also a story about two parts of the same coin that you can't have. And I think this is to Bakari's point, that you can't have that story of resilience. You can't have that story of expansive democracy without understanding how it happened and how we got there. You can't erase slavery and say, well, it's over and done with, and now we're not going to talk about it.
A quick moment, though, on Donald Trump's role in all of this, because I think that kind of gets glossed over. I mean, the idea that the president is saying that he is going to have his attorneys go through the museums the same way that he did the colleges and the universities is, as far as I can tell, not something that we've seen in this country in a very long time. And it's also something that deserves to be pointed out.
Well, Abby didn't say ever. She said in a long time. So it's happened before. Which is what we need to start talking. Let's speak in those terms. This shit ain't never stopped. It's not like Trump is doing unprecedented shit. He's just a little different than what we've been doing. The Republicans and Democrats have this shit down to a science, and he has thrown a monkey wrench into it. And I'm glad, because it's better for folks who want to see change, who want to see us get better, as opposed to just continuing to do the same things that we've been doing and not getting any better. And the country is definitely not getting stronger. Our deficit, do you guys realize that deficit alone could be the end of us? That could end our democracy. And they're talking about all kind of other stuff. But what both sides need to be talking about is whoever doesn't take that deficit seriously isn't taking us continuing to exist as a country seriously. They're not taking it seriously at all. Or you couldn't be that irresponsible with the checkbook.
As not normal.
I think it's not normal, but also, is this a good use of time for the President of the United States to be doing this? I think you saw that clip in 2017 when he was praising the African American History Museum. He was talking about his tour and the visit. I'm not sure what changed from now until then. I'm not aware of other exhibits or other like language being inserted into anything that's being shown at the museum.
What's changed is the backlash on the right.
Yeah,
against anything that has to do with race. And he is leaning into that because that is where his political base is. But we also have a responsibility to the facts and to actual history, not just the version that suits us in this political moment.
I think that the president is throwing stuff against the wall even when he tweets stuff like this. And I think that you have to be cautious about discounting people for their remarks, particularly when you have the president of the United States. But coming from the South where I'm from, you don't have to necessarily read about your history in history books, which is fascinating, because you go to the barbershop and people tell you about when King came to town. I mean, people actually, they slept on jailhouse floors, they smelled the bullets come by, and so you have this griot type of culture. The danger, however, is not with Donald Trump, who's an 80-year-old man. And this is what we haven't tackled. The danger is with people like Dylan Roof, who had as much hate in his heart as Lester Maddox and other individuals during that time period. We have an entire generation who will discount that history. And I prefer, and I think this, kind of to your point, progressives and liberals and even people to the right, particularly now, have gone to this point where we don't want to have the free flow and exchange of ideas, where we cancel people who have ideas that are different from yours. And I think we have to get back to a point of having more education, more books, more museums, more history in those museums, more exchange of ideas, so that we.
He said, get back to. Get back to? This, what Trump is doing is what it is. But it doesn't make us any smarter or dumber. Black people, we need our educational institutions to be led by us, directed by us, guided by us. And we have the proof to show them why we need to be in control. If white students can get money from taxpaying citizens to fund their departments and to fund their universities and junior colleges, then black people should be able to get the same thing and not have to beg every year and not have to sit there and act like they got it. No, it should be whatever that white university get, that's what that black university should get. That's just how it is. You gotta be right. And the Democrats are okay with things being the way they are. That's upside down. And it's never going to give us a chance to do shit at all. Because we're okay looking at schools like Harvard and knowing that it's a prestigious, high ranking university in this country, and there are so many of them. But most black people don't have a crack at that. And in fact, they count Africans and Jamaicans as black. So some of those people who are getting in there and looking like our quota might be being filled, they're not even us. And the problem with that is we need our own institutions. We need our own history being taught accurately. We have a whole lot of information just in the past couple of decades with the introduction of DNA and how that has erased some lies that people have told and taught to others. This is a wonderful time to be alive, but it's not a wonderful time for some people because they are walking a fine line between really being good people and really being pro-black, but also having an obligation to that Democratic Party. And that is a dilemma. You can't do both, not effectively.
We become a more educated country, because right now I feel like this country's dumb as hell.
All right.
You're right. It is dumb as hell. I mean, with that, it just lets you know racially we can't even get it right because we don't place a lot of value in it in this country. We don't place a lot of value in education. People don't like to read. People like the easy way out for the most part. Whenever they come up with a new app or a new program that we can use, then that means less things we got to do for ourselves. Shit, people don't even want to do podcasts no more. They got AI doing their shit for them. Well, you won't see that here. Black popcorn is going to always represent. But yeah, when it come down to it, you guys, the bottom line is Trump is going to be Trump. He's a boisterous old man. He's 80 years old, and these people sitting here, and he got swollen legs and water retention and poor circulation, which speaks to the heart. It's not a good thing, but he will live as long as a person in his condition should, because he has the money to make sure they can do whatever they can do for him medically. He's got nurses and doctors and folks looking out. And he, as old as he is, the last thing the Democrats should even waste their breath talking about is him going for another term or trying to let him try it. If that would only happen, I would imagine, if the Democrats don't win here in these midterms. I personally don't know how this is going to go. I think it's going to be even close like it is now. Somebody's going to have 3 or 4 seat advantage. The Democrats are acting like now it's a wonderful thing that Trump did the thing in Texas with Abbott, because now it gives the Democrats opportunity to do what they really need to be doing. They should have started the shit. They want to win. If they want to win, they should have said, look, we don't normally do this, but this dude is an existential threat. Like they keep saying, we're in imminent danger. He's the worst of the worst of the worst. And if you can't tell your people that and say, we're going to redistrict some shit, we got to beat him. And people are like, what? We don't do that in mid shit. We normally don't, but it's all hands on deck. We going to do the shit. But the Democrats are still trying to come off like nice guys and like we play by the rules and we're not going to break the rules. Oh, if you want to win, you better fucking break some rules. That's what Trump is doing. Trump's like, fuck that shit. We want to win. We want to continue riding this wave. We're in the majority, barely, but we like this shit. And the Democrats are trying to act like they're too noble to do this shit. And because they've been given the opportunity because Trump and Abbott struck first, now everybody's like, yeah, it's on now. We do. Because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be doing that. I don't believe that the Democrats are morally in any better place than the Republicans are. I don't even believe this is a real, true democracy as long as there's the opportunity for somebody to gerrymander anything. Fuck it. One vote for one vote. That's how it should be. And no more, the college, electoral college, none of that shit. One vote for one vote. California's a big-ass state. New York's a big-ass state. Rhode Island's little. But when it comes down to it, the presidential candidates will have to reach out to everybody. They won't be able to sit down and play their little games. I got this, I got this, I got this. Oh, okay, I got to run over here. I'm not sure about this one. Nah. You should campaign hard everywhere. You should go to New York. You should go to LA. You should go to Wisconsin. You should go everywhere. And get out there and do some real campaigning and quit lying to people. I have lost complete confidence in our political system. That's why I feel that our only chance is to pour our energy into supporting ourselves and progressing ourselves. And we have the track record. We have the historical proof that anybody who tells us to do anything, we can probably look back in our existence here and show them where we did it or where we tried and look what the result was. And to allow us to do these things without the interference and suppression. Because that's all they're going to say. You guys can. No, we did it. We did it. We built towns. We own land. You know what? I'm going to tell you guys some shit. When I was a little kid, and I wasn't that little, I was probably about 12, and I found out that the land in New York that Central Park is on was owned by black couple, and they subdivisioned it off and built, and it was taken by eminent domain and turned into what it is today. The sad part about that is there's stories like that all over the place, and nobody seems to think that you need to make it right. And it's only because it's black people. Because when white people lost their slaves, lost their plantations, they restored all of that. They repaired them. They made them whole again. The only thing missing was the slaves. And they even abused them, underpaying them or making them work. And then at the end of the work, not paying them, or all kind of shit went on that was unfair. And it was because it was so recent after a slave master relationship. How do you take these people and allow them to go out there and work for and with these people who just so recently enslaved them and expect for this relationship to be any good? Just terrible shit, And I do admire the bravery of these people getting up there and expressing their ideas and everything. But you can look and feel the twist that's being put on here. And when they come down to the Smithsonian stuff, Trump can do it. I'm telling you guys, for real shit. We don't need that shit. That is not at the top of the shit we need. If we get that Smithsonian restored and even add some artifacts that are not in it now, as a whole, do we think that's going to change our life? and the things are put in there under the direction of people who aren't us. It's out of our hands. So it's still, even though it's on display, the accuracy or the forward they're describing a particular artifact or a piece of art or work is still under their control. And until we can control our history and take it and teach it properly, you know, we shouldn't be whining too hard over this kind of stuff. Let them fight over that shit. We got other fish to fry. And with that, folks, like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.